Welcome to Whitby, home of Bram Stoker's famous vampire novel, Dracula. My name is Francesca Ford. I am the writer and director of audio drama Dracula 2004, which endeavours to take the plot of Dracula and reimagine it in an early 2000s setting. I am here on holiday in Whitby, but not just on holiday. While I'm here, I plan to investigate the whole of the route of Dracula, the paths that the characters take while they're here in Whitby, and to explore what really makes this fantastic seaside location such an interesting gothic setting for this famous novel. Right now, I am sat on Bram Stoker's favourite spot in Whitby. I'm looking out at the brilliant gothic location of Whitby Abbey, and it's right here on this very spot that he first got inspiration in 1890 to write his novel. Let's have a look and see what else Whitby has to offer. When Bram Stoker first arrived in Whitby with his family in 1890, he would have taken a steam train just like this one. The character of Mina, heroine of the novel Dracula, describes the train as running through a great viaduct with high piers through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. Being a bit of a train fiend myself, I couldn't resist trying out the experience, getting the trip off to an excellent start. Those of you familiar with Dracula might recognise this location. This is Tate Hill Beach, best known for being the first place Count Dracula ever sets foot in England. It also happens to be the first place we visited on our tour. So imagine a scene. It's a dark and stormy night. It's the worst storm you've seen in a century. And suddenly a ship is spotted over the horizon, lurching to and fro, and it gets pushed into harbour by this unseen force. It crashes through the wall and it washes up right here on Tate Hill Sands. And it's steered, as discovered later, by a dead man's hand because the captain has been tied to the steering wheel. This curious plot point was inspired by a real-life event. In 1885, 5 years before Stoker visited Whitby, a Russian ship called the Dmitri was wrecked on Tate Hill Sands during a storm, which Stoker read about later on in Whitby's local library. The only difference between a Dmitri and a Demeter was that the crew of the Dmitri survived, including the captain, while the unfortunate fictional crew of the Demeter have been picked off by Dracula. So after the ship Demeter spectacularly crashes onto Tate Hill Beach, something mysterious happens. We know that a dead man is lashed to the wheel, but then a massive black dog leaps off the ship onto the beach, and it runs up down here and then up there. And here's the thing, this is no ordinary dog. Some say it looks like a wolf, but of course we, as the readers know, this is no ordinary dog. This is Dracula. Now Dracula in wolf form runs up this path and up this way, right up to Whitby Abbey. Welcome to Royal Crescent. This is where Bram Stoker stayed in 1890, and this is where he also got the idea for his novel Dracula. Now, in the novel Dracula, published 8 years later, the characters of Mina and Lucy, who come to stay in Whitby on holiday, also stay here in Royal Crescent. Now, I'm going to be taking you on a tour all the way through the town, all the major locations that Mina and Lucy travel through in their dramatic scenes in Dracula. So imagine for a second that you are Mina. You have woken up at 3 a.m. or some ungodly hour, and you look over, your friend's bed is empty. You know she's a sleepwalker. You panic. You think, well, she can't have got far. You check for her shoes. Her shoes are there. Maybe she's in the house, but when you search it, she's gone. You think she's left the house. So you run out to the house. You are in Royal Crescent. You run down to the cliffs. And now I'm going to show you where Mina looks next. I took a big, heavy shawl and ran out. The clock was striking 1 as I was in the crescent, and there was not a soul in sight. I ran along the north terrace, but could see no sign of the white figure which I expected. At the edge of the west cliff above the pier, I looked across the harbour to the east cliff in a hope or fear, I don't know which, of seeing Lucy in our favourite seat. There was a bright full moon with heavy black driving clouds, which threw the whole scene into a fleeting diorama of light and shade as they sailed across. For a moment or two I could see nothing, as the shadow of a cloud obscured St Mary's Church and all around it. Then, as the cloud passed, I could see the ruins of the abbey coming into view. For there, on our favourite seat, in the silver light of the moon, struck a half-reclining figure, snowy white. The coming of the cloud was too quick for me to see much, for the shadow shut down on light almost immediately. But it seemed to me as though something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone, bent over it. What it was, whether man or beast, I could not tell. I did not wait to catch another glance, but flew down the steep steps to the pier and along by the fish market to the bridge, which was the only way to reach the east cliff. The town seemed as dead, for not a soul did I see. I rejoiced that it was so, for I wanted no witness of poor Lucy's condition. The time and distance seemed endless, and my knees trembled and my breath came laboured as I toiled up the endless steps to the abbey. There are 199 of these steps leading up to the abbey, up the hill, and we are about to climb all 199 of them. Off we go. I must have gone fast, and yet it seemed to me as though my feet were weighted with lead, and as though every joint in my body were rusty. When I got almost to the top, I could see the seat and the white figure, for I was now close enough to distinguish it even through the spells of shadow. There was undoubtedly something, long and black, bending over the half-reclining white figure. So Mina has run up all 199 steps. She runs into this graveyard. There she sees her friend Lucy lying on a bench with a dark shape hovering over her with piercing red eyes. She runs forward to intervene, and then the shape vanishes, leaving Lucy behind. From where I was, I could see a white face and red, gleaming eyes. Lucy did not answer, and I ran on to the entrance of the churchyard. As I entered, the church was between me and the seat, and for a minute or so I lost sight of her. When I came into view again, the cloud had passed, and the moonlight struck so brilliantly that I could see Lucy half reclining, with her head lying over the back of the seat. She was quite alone, and there was not a sign of any living thing about. The graveyard here at St Mary's Church in Whitby is massively important to Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. As you can see, it's much bigger than it first initially appears when you're looking over at the other side from the opposing cliff. And it's hugely significant. It's the first place that Mina visits in Whitby with Lucy. It's where she meets the old Yorkshireman, Mr. Swales, and it's also where Mr. Swales is later found dead, lying on a bench. This is also particularly significant because this is where Mina finds Lucy, with Dracula hovering over her at the climax of the Whitby part of the book. We're going to now take a look up at Whitby Abbey, which is our final stop on our Dracula tour today. This is Whitby Abbey, one of the most significant gothic pieces of architecture in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now, in the novel, Mina, who is telling this part of the story, describes it as this. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes and which is seen as part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. I have to admit, I have not seen her yet, but we'll keep a lookout. The harbour lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy seawall runs along outside of it. On the near side, the seawall makes an elbow crooked inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between the two piers there is a narrow opening into the harbour, which then suddenly widens. It's clear that Bram Stoker loved Whitby, and I think he would too. But if you do decide to come here, then make sure that you bring some garlic.